Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. I am your host, and today we are looking at something you probably see all the time, but, never actually notice.
Yeah, and as your resident tech expert, I'm so excited to be here. We are talking about the hidden technological magic that powers massive multi-screen setups, like when you are in a sports bar.
Exactly. Our source today is a product listing from HDTVSupply for a device called the Smart-AVI RK8-HLX-500-S. And, okay, let's unpack this. You can think of this device as a super-powered digital traffic cop for video.
Right, but instead of just waving cars through an intersection, it is taking massive cargo trucks of video data, then it breaks them down into neat little identical shipping containers, sends them down a high-speed rail line, and, perfectly reassembles them.
I really love that visual. So looking at the actual hardware, this Smart AVI unit is an 8-port extender. It takes 8 separate 1080p HD video and audio feeds and sends them to displays up to 500 feet away.
Which is just a huge distance for uncompressed video.
It really is. But I have to ask, if you have a sprawling building, why go through this complex routing? Like, why not just buy a 500-foot HDMI cable?
Oh, well, because HDMI cables are built to send massive, continuous streams of uncompressed data over short distances, like, in your living room, that is totally fine. But over a long physical distance, that signal just degrades rapidly.
So the video basically falls apart.
Exactly. A 500-foot HDMI cable would be an absolute nightmare to install and honestly financially ruinous. That is if you can even get it to work at all.
Wait, really? So if it completely bypasses HDMI cables for the long stretches, what is it actually using to connect all these screens?
Well, that is the brilliant part of this gear. It uses cheap, standard CT5, 5E, or 6 LAN cables.
No way. You mean like the exact same basic Ethernet cables plugged into the back of my Wi-Fi router at home?
Precisely. It chops that continuous stream of 1080p video along with incredibly dense audio like Dolby True HD and DTS HD into tiny data packets. Then it fires those packets down standard Ethernet cables, which are made for long-distance travel, and puts them perfectly back together at the display.
Wow. It is basically hijacking standard internet infrastructure to do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. If it pushes this much data across a building, wouldn't you need an IT degree just to turn it on?
You would totally think so, right? I mean, IP conflicts and drivers can be a headache.
Yeah, I am picturing an absolute setup nightmare.
But what's fascinating here is that it requires absolutely none of that. It is entirely plug and play. Physically, it's just a 3.6-pound one-rack unit box.
So this just slides right into a standard stack server rack.
Exactly. You plug in power, hook up your HDMI sources, run your Ethernet lines out to the receivers at each display, and the hardware handles the rest automatically. No software required at all.
That is wild. If this setup replaces thousands of feet of proprietary cables and saves you from needing a network engineer, that must save a fortune. Plus, looking at the specs, you're not even strictly limited to that 500-foot radius.
Right, yeah. If you route the connection through a standard network switch, specifically an Ethernet gigaswitch, you can chain that signal to travel for thousands of feet.
Without losing quality.
Not a single frame. It stays flawless.
Which makes a lot of sense when you look at the price tag. HDTVSupply currently lists this unit for $1,359.20, marked down from a $1,699 MSRP. So, I mean, it is a serious commercial investment.
It is, but it is the invisible backbone of the commercial AV industry. Without gear like this, building those sprawling multi-screen setups is virtually impossible. You just cannot pick up this kind of scalable infrastructure at a local big box electronics store.
Right, which is why niche suppliers are so critical for this stuff. There's a review on the site from a customer named William L. that backs that up. He specifically praised the easy shopping experience for, quote, hard-to-find AV products.
Yeah, when you are a professional trying to get a massive venue online, having a reliable supplier for the exact right routing gear is just as important as the gear itself. So the next time you are sitting in a sports bar happily watching 8 different games at once, you will know the secret.
Yeah, it is not magic, and it is definitely not a mile of expensive HDMI cable. It is likely a rack-mounted box, quietly pushing heavy, high-definition video through those cheap standard internet cables hidden right above your head.
It really changes how you look at the room.
It does,
Yeah.
but, it also leaves me with a lingering question for you to ponder. If we currently rely on these clever LAN network hacks to push 1080p and 4K signals thousands of feet, what happens next? Like what kind of invisible heavy-duty infrastructure will be required when the world inevitably shifts to the massive data loads of 8K displays?
That is a lot of data.
Exactly. And HDTV Supply already has a whole section of 8K products starting to hit the market. So how do you direct that kind of traffic without total gridlock?